Little village beneath a golden sunflower field lived a tiny mouse named Nibbles. His whiskers were short, his ears were big, and his heart was even bigger. He helped his family with chores and dreamed of being a hero, but everyone thought he was just too small to do anything important. One sunny morning, a terrible shock shook the village. Grandma Tilly's giant golden cheese wheel had vanished. It was meant for the harvest festival. "It must be the shadow fox," whispered the elders. Everyone was too scared to go after him, but then Nibbles stood up tall. Well, as tall as a mouse can. "I'll find the cheese," he said bravely. The others gasped. "You?" cried a chipmunk. "You're too little. You'll get eaten." But Nibbles only smiled. Small doesn't mean scared. At night, Nibbles packed his cracker sword, a glowing firefly lantern, and a thimble helmet. His mom gave him a button shield and whispered, "Be careful." The forest was dark and spooky with creaking trees and blinking eyes. Nibbles stepped carefully over twisted roots, crossed a stream by hopping on a floating leaf, and crawled under giant mushrooms. His heart pounded, but he was determined to find the missing cheese. At last, under moonlight, Nibbles saw the stolen cheese next to a sleeping shadow fox. The fox held a worn teddy bear. Instead of fighting, Nibbles left a note. "Dear Shadow Fox, stealing hurts others. Please say sorry. We can share the cheese." Then he tiptoed away. The next morning, the worried village gathered. Suddenly, Nibbles returned, with the shadow fox beside him carrying the cheese. Everyone was surprised and silent. The fox said softly, "I'm sorry, I was lonely." Grandma Tilly smiled. "You're welcome here." The festival started with games, cheese, and laughter. Nibbles was small but brave, and everyone cheered their tiny hero. In Savannah, young Ellie the elephant stood still, her big ears flopping gently. She loved the wind, how it made the grass dance and tickled her ears. But today, the wind was gone. No rustling trees, no swaying grass, not even the tiniest breeze. "Where did it go?" Ellie whispered. She set off on a journey, asking every creature she met. The lions, too sleepy to talk, the birds, too warm to fly, the butterflies, the meerkats, the tortoise neck had seen the wind. Ellie frowned. Ellie trudged up the tallest hill, ears drooping. At the very top, a tall giraffe swayed slowly in the heat. "Looking for something, little one?" he asked kindly. "Yes," said Ellie. "I'm looking for the wind. I miss it so much." The giraffe gave a knowing smile. "Close your eyes," he said gently. Ellie did. She waited. Then suddenly, whoosh! A breeze brushed Ellie's cheeks and fluttered her ears. The grass began to whisper again, and the trees stretched in a sigh. "It was here all along," said the giraffe. "Even the wind takes naps sometimes." Ellie laughed, feeling the wind. Sat beneath a big oak tree, his ears perked up. Every night he listened to the forest's bedtime song. The crickets, the owls, the breeze in the trees. But tonight, something was different. No chirps, no hoots, no rustling wind. Freddie's tail twitched. Where did Freddie padded softly through the trees. Under a curled leaf, he found the crickets shivering. "We're cold," they chirped. "Too chilly to sing." Up in a tree, the owls sat huddled and yawning. "We're sleepy," they said. Too tired to hoot, Freddie's ears drooped. But then he had an idea. "Maybe I can make the music." Freddie picked up a stick and tapped a hollow log. Tap, tap, tap. Then he sang a soft, sweet tune into the night. Ooh. The wind picked up, a leaf twirled down, the crickets peeked out and joined in. The owls hooted gently from their branch. Blows through a quiet sunlit meadow where tulips, daisies and sunflowers droop with their petals closed. Lula Fairy steps from her tiny home and gasps. She's overslept.
The flowers haven't awakened. Clutching her glittery pouch of magic dust, she flutters into the air, wings shimmering in the light. She zips across the meadow, sprinkling dust over each bloom. Slowly, petals stretch and open, revealing brilliant colors. A bumblebee buzzes near, bowing in thanks as the field comes alive with color and light. Lula smiles, satisfied, as the once still meadow fills with movement. Flowers swaying, bees humming, and butterflies fluttering. With her job done, she gently lands on a soft daffodil, curls up, and closes her eyes. The glittery pouch rests beside her as she naps peacefully, sunlight beaming down. All around her, the meadow now thrives, awake, colourful, and full of life once more, thanks to one tiny fairy and her sparkling touch of magic.
A glimmer caught her eye. A tiny door nestled in the wall whispered adventures. Heart racing, she tiptoed closer. The door creaked, revealing a world of stories. Shelves towered high, bursting with books of every color. Each spine promised a journey. She reached out and plucked a book. The cover depicted candy mountains shimmering with sweetness. It felt warm against her fingertips. Suddenly she was in a dream. Mountains of candy rose before her, calling her to play. Laughter bubbled up from her heart. But then the ground quaked. The sugary wonderland began to melt. The sweet landscape felt sticky and heavy. "Be careful," whispered her fluffy companion, though he could only watch. His heart was full of worry as the laughter faded. Just as giggles turned to fears, memories danced in her mind. A line from a beloved book echoed in her heart. "Imagine your way out," she remembered. With all her might, she pictured her cozy bed, warm and safe. The sticky landscape dissolved like sugar in rain. With a whoosh, reality beckoned her back home. She landed softly in her own bed, cocooned in warmth. Dawn painted the world with a gentle glow.
Was a shy little raccoon who loved hearing stories about faraway places, but he had never gone on an adventure himself. One quiet night, he heard a soft chug-chug and a gentle whistle echo through the woods. When he peeked out of his den, he saw something magical, a glowing silver train parked in the clearing. A tall fox in a starry vest stepped out and called, "Midnight train to Dreamland, last call." Milo's eyes widened. He grabbed his scarf, took a deep breath, and climbed aboard. Inside the train, animals from all over were curled up in cozy seats. A bear sipped cocoa, a deer read a glowing book, and stars sparkled outside the windows. The train whooshed into the sky, gliding on beams of moonlight. They passed floating islands, sleepy clouds, and even waved to a yawning dragon snoozing on a comet. Milo watched in awe, his heart racing with excitement. Soon, they arrived in Dreamland, a magical world of glowing flowers and soft lullabies. Milo played with cloud creatures and floated in bubbles that whispered bedtime songs. But before long, the fox conductor called, "Time to return." The train gently carried Milo back through the sky, landing right outside his cozy den. He snuggled into bed, eyes heavy with sleep, and smiled. Tonight, he had his own story to dream about. She was a curious little girl who loved to explore the forest behind her house. Every day after school, she would wander into the trees, collecting shiny rocks and pretending she was a brave explorer. One sunny afternoon, she wandered farther than usual and found a tree she had never seen before. It was tall and wide, with bark that looked like it had been braided and leaves that shimmered silver in the sunlight. Billy stepped closer and whispered, "Hello?" To her surprise, the tree answered, "Hello, Tilly." Her eyes widened. "You? You can talk?" From that day on, Tilly visited the tree every afternoon. She told it stories about her day, sang it silly songs, and asked questions about the forest. The tree became her best friend. It told her secrets, like how the wind carried messages between trees, how fireflies danced when the moon sang, and how the stars loved to peek through its leaves at night. One day the tree whispered, "Tilly, you are kind, curious, and full of wonder. The forest is lucky to have you." Tilly smiled and gave the tree a big hug. "And I'm lucky to have you." One cloudy evening, Tilly found was a curious little girl who loved to lie in the grass and stare up at the clouds. She imagined them as giant whales, castles, and dragons floating through the sky. One quiet afternoon, as the breeze tickled her cheeks and birds chirped nearby, something strange happened. A small puff of cloud drifted down from the sky and hovered right in front of her. The cloud swirled gently and whispered, "Would you like a ride?" Nia gasped, but she wasn't scared. With the cloud lifted Nia high above the trees, past chirping birds and colorful kites, until the ground below looked like a patchwork quilt. Then she saw it, a sparkling cloud carousel floating in the sky. It had soft cloud horses, spinning jelly bean seats, and twinkling stars running the ride. Music floated through the air like wind chimes, made from breezes and star giggles. Nia rode every part of the carousel, laughing, spinning, and soaring through the sky. It was more magical than any dream she'd ever had. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with pink and gold, the stars dimmed the carousel lights. The cloud whispered, "It's time to go, Nia." She gave the stars a gentle hug and waved goodbye to the cloud horses. The little cloud carried her softly back to the meadow just as the stars began to twinkle in the darkening sky. Nia looked up and whispered, "I'll come back." And the clouds above shimmered, almost like they were winking back at her. Once upon a time, in a cozy little town called Threadville, lived a curious young girl named Ellie. Ellie loved sewing with her grandma, and her favorite thing in the world was her magic jacket, which had colorful buttons from all over the world. One windy morning, Ellie put on her magic jacket and went for a walk. As she skipped down the cobblestone path, pop! Her shiny red heart-shaped button fell off and rolled away. "Oh no!" Ellie cried. "That was my lucky button!" She chased after it as it bounced down the path and disappeared into the woods. Ellie followed the trail into the woods and met a friendly squirrel named Nutters. "Have you seen my red heart-shaped button?" Ellie asked. "I saw something shiny roll by," Nutters said. "It went toward the stream." Ellie thanked him and hurried along. At the stream she saw a duck named Penny waddling by. "Looking for something?" Penny quacked. "My favorite button," Ellie said. Penny pointed with her beak. It floated down the stream and landed near. Ellie rushed to the willow tree. And there it was. Her red heart-shaped button was stuck in a soft patch of moss. She picked it up and held it close. "I found you," she whispered. Back at home, Ellie and her grandma sewed the button back onto her magic jacket. Ellie smiled wide and said, "This jacket really is magic. It took me on an adventure." From that day on, every button on her jacket told a story, and the red, cheerful octopus named Oliver. Oliver had a very unusual hobby. He loved hats. His cave was filled with all kinds, tiny coral caps, shiny shell berets, and even squishy jellyfish hats, the kind that liked being hats, of course. Every morning, Oliver would pick a new one to wear and float proudly around the reef. But one morning, a powerful current rushed through his cave. Whoosh! It swept all his beloved hats away. "Oh no!" Oliver gasped, watching them drift into the distance. Now my head feels so bare. Determined to find a new hat, Oliver set out on a mission. First he tried a big spiral seashell. Too heavy, he huffed, wobbling around. Next he carefully placed a grumpy crab on his head. "Hey," the crab snapped, "I'm not a hat." Then Oliver wrapped seaweed into a twisty green crown. "Too itchy," he grumbled, shaking it off. He tried and tried, but nothing felt quite right. Poor Oliver was about to give up. Just then, a little seahorse swam by, wearing the shiniest bubble hat Oliver had ever seen. "Wow," said Oliver. "Where did you get that?" "I made it myself," the seahorse beamed. "Just blow gently and trap the air." Oliver took a deep breath, and out came a wobbly, shimmering bubble. He carefully placed it on his head. It sparkled and bounced with color. He loved it. Soon all the ocean creatures were asking for bubble hats, too. Oliver didn't mind. He was happy. In a quiet little village, there lived a sleek black cat named Luna. While most cats napped in the sun or curled up by the fire, Luna had a very different habit. She loved to climb onto the rooftops and gaze at the night sky. But Luna didn't just watch the stars. She dreamed of catching one. "Someday," she whispered to the moon, "I'll catch a star all for myself." Each night she stared up with wide golden eyes, waiting for the perfect moment. One magical night, something special happened. A tiny star blinked brighter than all the others, and then it moved. It dipped and danced, lowering closer and closer to the rooftops, as if inviting Luna to follow. With a flick of her tail and a graceful leap, Luna sprang into action. She dashed across rooftops, over chimneys, and up a tree, chasing the sparkling light. The star led her to the tallest hill in the village, a place where the wind howled gently and fireflies lit up the grass. There the star hovered, just out of reach. Luna crouched, ready to pounce. Luna leapt high into the air, paw stretched out, but instead of catching the star, she heard a soft giggle. "You're funny, little cat," the star chimed, glowing warmly. "But you don't need to catch a star to shine. You shine just by being you." Luna blinked, then gave a soft, happy purr. She sat beside the glowing star, and together they watched the world sleeping below. From that night on, Luna didn't chase stars anymore. Tilly wasn't like the other tigers. She didn't roar or pounce. She baked. In her cozy cave, she made cupcakes, pies, and muffins with fruity fillings and rainbow sprinkles. While the other animals played in the jungle, Tilly wore her apron and dreamed of sharing her treats with everyone. One day, a sign appeared in the clearing. "Jungle Bake-Off! Winner gets the golden whisk!" Tilly was thrilled and entered right away. At the contest, the other animals laughed. "You bake?" Rhino chuckled. "You're too small," squawked Parrot. But Tilly just smiled and started baking. She made a fluffy strawberry cake with jungle flower icing and shiny sugar butterflies. When the judges tasted Tilly's cake, their eyes lit up. "This is the best we've ever had," said Elephant. Tilly won the golden whisk and everyone cheered. From that day on, no one teased her again. In fact, every Saturday the animals lined up for her delicious treats. Because in the jungle, everyone knew tiny tigers can do very big things, with heart, hope, and a little bit of frosting. Timmy loved flying kites more than anything. One windy afternoon, while exploring near an old oak tree, he found a beautiful kite stuck in a bush. It was covered in shining stars and glowing moons that twinkled in the sunlight. Excited, Timmy carefully untangled the kite and ran to Timmy let the kite fly, and suddenly it lifted him off the ground. Higher and higher he soared above the trees, clouds, and birds. The kite carried him to a sparkling castle made of clouds. Inside, friendly cloud creatures welcomed him warmly and gave Timmy a glowing feather. "This feather will bring you back any time you want," they said. Timmy thanked the cloud creatures and held the kite tightly. Slowly he floated back down to the ground, feeling happy and excited. From that day on, whenever Timmy flew his magical kite, he went on a new adventure high above the world. Evening, just as the stars came out, Nora heard a soft whistle outside her window. It wasn't a bird, it wasn't the wind, it was something magical. One night she tiptoed outside in her pajamas, holding her flashlight and a big, curious smile. In the garden stood a tall dandelion, glowing silver in the moonlight. The whistle came from there. Nora leaned in close, and whoosh, a swirl of sparkles spun around her. Suddenly, she was flying on a leaf, a talking leaf. "Hold on," laughed the leaf. "We're off to the Whistle Woods." They soared over rooftops, trees, and sleepy hills until they landed in a clearing full of glowing dandelions, just like the one in her garden. Tiny creatures with wings and whistles danced in a circle. "Welcome," Nora once said. "You followed the call." They taught her how to whistle with moonlight, how to send dreams through wind, and how to listen with her heart. When the sun began to rise, the leaf brought her home. Back in bed, Nora smiled as the wind whispered through her window. The next night, and every night after, she listened closely, just in case the whistle came again.